one of the most powerful men in Hollywood.
He tried to coerce me to take my top off.
It's a whole culture around him that says that it's okay to treat women like this.
Sexual favors are a perk of the job.
I was exposed so many times to men like him.
Hollywood has always had this dark secret.
He was one of the most powerful men in cinema, but his spectacular fall from grace has exposed one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood's history. With 6 Best Picture Oscars to his name, Harvey Weinstein's influence on modern cinema has been immense, but now blown apart by an investigation by the New York Times that's exposed what was really going on behind the scenes. One of the first women to speak out on camera was a former Fox News reporter.
He cornered me in this vestibule and leaned in and tried to kiss me, which I immediately rebuffed and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I had no idea that that's what this was. He blocked the entrance or exit for me and said, well, then just stand there and be quiet. I had no idea what was going to happen, and it happened very quickly, and he immediately exposed himself.
Then the New Yorker published even more serious allegations. An Italian actress alleged Weinstein forcibly performed a sex act on her. She and 2 other women also claimed he raped them. Weinstein strenuously denies any non-consensual sex.
You needed 2 reputable institutions like the New York Times and the New Yorker that had the resources and the inclination to push for this, for it to happen. There were people in LA and in New York who had heard and knew about some of this, but they needed people on the record, and they needed to nail the stories before they could ever publish them.
When you've got a factual story and build up, of much evidence behind it, very much like MP scandals in this country, it takes real diligence and journalistic skill to get the heart of that story and make it in such a way that some lawyer can't threaten the news organisation with a hefty fine.
Then came claim after claim. Some of Hollywood's biggest stars, who've now gone on the record to say they too had endured humiliating experiences, including in some cases horrifying assaults. All say they were intimidated into staying silent. On Twitter, actress Rose McGowan accused him of rape, saying she was paid $100,000 to keep quiet. Gwyneth Paltrow says she was petrified when in her 20s he tried to kiss her in a hotel room and asked for a massage. Cara Delevingne said he trapped her in a room and forced her to kiss him. Romola Garai said she was horrified when at 18 a casting for Weinstein to personally approve her turned out to be alone with him in his hotel bedroom. And Angelina Jolie says a bad experience she had with the producer when she was starting out is the reason she's never worked with him since.
He was in a bathtub. He tried to coerce me to take my top off, and I didn't. And I ended up leaving that situation and actually leaving my acting aspirations. I couldn't imagine who to call. Whose phone number do you dial at the Weinstein Company to say this happened to me? And who on the other end would believe me?
We went to his office and we had a great conversation about his current film and the film that I was pitching. He seemed genuinely interested, and I was excited. After about 30 minutes, he asked to excuse himself and go to the bathroom. He returned in nothing but a robe, with the front open, and he was buck naked.
Many of Weinstein's oldest friends have expressed their shock over the revelations. Meryl Streep, who once called him a god, has said his behaviour is disgraceful. And Hollywood producer Barbara Broccoli has told Sky News it is inexcusable.
We can't afford to have any form of harassment of any kind in the industry. You're working with people who are very committed and very vulnerable, and it's a very intense industry, and we all need to look out for each other.
As allegations continue to mount, so have the uncomfortable questions for those who worked with him but say they were unaware. Kristen Scott Thomas starred in his Oscar-winning film The English Patient.
I'm just saddened and appalled by what I hear. Never witnessed anything, but saddened and appalled.
There's also been a focus on Hollywood's men to speak out.
My heart goes out to anyone who suffered through that kind of abuse and experience, and I hope it sheds a light on the issue, and people, don't continue to abuse their position of power, and people aren't manipulated into situations they don't want to be a part of.
There have been a lot of people who have come forward and had to be really brave and saying some very personal things, and I think all of those things need to be respected and seen all the way through.
The time we're living in right now is like revelations. We're getting to see the way things really are behind closed doors, and now we have to make a conscious choice about who we are and how we're going to go forward. And I think the only way to do that is for us to know exactly what's happening.
I have received. He helped make some of the most critically acclaimed movies in modern cinema. Hundreds of Oscars have been awarded to his films. The industry joke goes, in an acceptance speech, most actors thank God, their agent, and then Harvey.
You sit here and think of something to say.
I'll do that. Without question, Harvey Weinstein was one of the modern movie moguls, setting up Miramax, a company that was latterly sold for gazillions to Disney. He has reshaped the way that Oscars were won with massive Oscar campaigns for productions like Shakespeare in Love. He was perhaps one of the 5 or 6 most powerful people within Hollywood.
You heard about us, you probably heard we ain't in the prisoner-taking business.
Weinstein was always fiercely proud of his reputation for supporting art house movies.
I'm not here to do the, mainstream movies. My movies are The English Patient and Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastards. I want to take the audience on an incredible journey.
Known for being a tyrant and a bully, he'd been cast out before by Hollywood.
I had 20 years of unparalleled success, broke all the rules, did fantastically well, had a big argument with Disney. It was tough time. I stood up for what I believed in, and then I spent 5 years in the wilderness not doing well. I'm so happy that there's an Act 2, and I'm going to appreciate it a lot better this time. I'm a lot more humbler.
People have described you as God, the Punisher, a tyrant, a puppy dog, ruthless and a perfectionist. Which of those most describes you, or do all of them describe you?
A perfectionist mostly. I'm ruthless for the movie. I'm a tyrant for the film. My loyalty is to the movie, not to anything else. Today it's almost, a bad word to be a good producer.
13 years ago, a reporter who tried to tell the story then claims Weinstein beat it back by calling on his celebrity friends. Sharon Waxman says she received calls from both Matt Damon and Russell Crowe vouching for him.
Meet Will Hunting.
Damon, whose first film, the Oscar-winning Good Will Hunting, was one of Weinstein's, now says he wasn't aware what the piece was about and says the claims today make him sick to his stomach.
He knew that various journalists who were tough to him and were willing to go up against him and were willing to report things that he didn't want them to report. In my case, it was mostly business stuff. It was about, whether or not Nicole Kidman, whether he wanted her to have a fake nose in the hours. I mean, I wasn't chasing down his sexual peccadillos at all. I was telling business stories, but other people he was afraid of too, and I see now why.
Possibly facing criminal charges, almost overnight Harvey Weinstein was sacked by his own company, left by his wife, and made an outcast by the world that once worshipped him.
This is definitely a wake-up call for Hollywood. Harvey Weinstein was sort of the captain of the casting couch, and I think that thing has been set on fire at this point. I don't think any executives are going to be thinking that this is a good idea in future. When we have smartphones that can record you, we can take videotape, we can go on the record to publications with gravitas like the New York Times. There's going to be a lot of executives who are going to have to rethink the way that they do business.
He blocked the entrance or exit for me and said, well, then just stand there and be quiet.
He returned in nothing but a robe with the front open, and he was buck naked.
He tried to coerce me to take my top off.
He immediately exposed himself.
The allegations made against Harvey Weinstein take us back to the not-so-golden age of Hollywood.
Of having your hostess ask you to sing.
The scandal exposes a casting couch culture that most had assumed was a thing of the past. In her teens, Judy Garland says she was propositioned for sex. Joan Collins believes she lost out on the lead in Cleopatra because she wouldn't sleep with the studio head. And as a child star, Shirley Temple, in her memoirs, said a producer exposed himself in their first meeting.
The world has changed a lot since then. The movie industry, it would seem, has not. Are the allegations against Harvey Weinstein depressing? Yes. Surprising? Perhaps not.
Weinstein's behaviour, it would seem, has been an open secret, joked about in the industry for years.
Oh, please. I'm not afraid of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions out of 5.
And comedian Seth MacFarlane made this joke when announcing the 2013 Best Actress Oscar nominations.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
So how come nobody dared to challenge Weinstein until now?
I would say every actress I know has experienced some form of sexual harassment in her career. That's me included. Things are done because people can get away with it, and people can get away with it because it's unregulated, and it's a lot to do with who knows who. It's very undercover, the whole casting process, and the performances and rehearsals are often secret because they don't want anyone to know what the show is going to be about.
Hollywood has reacted with horror to the claims, but could it do with sparing us the hypocrisy?
People have enabled this behaviour, and I think that's it. We've got to remember it's not just one sleazy guy, it's a whole culture around him that says that it's okay to treat women like this, to abuse your power.
Weinstein has long been sheltered by a system where those with power are fiercely protected by an army of publicists, assistants and lawyers. That extends out to its stars. Personal questions from journalists can be banned and interviews shut down.
Tom, you're live on Sky News.
What has happened over the last 20 years with the degrading of the influence of the media and the power of publicists and the power of their legal armoury is that it's been easier to suppress these stories.
A culture of complicity helped ensure Weinstein's behaviour was buried for decades, and now parallels are being drawn to other cases of exploitation and abuse.
The same questions arguably were posed about when Jimmy Savile was exposed. How was this predator allowed to exist at the heart of British establishment and entertainment history for so long? So the same questions now move across and look at Harvey Weinstein.
They said, who's going to believe us against Jimmy Savile? He's a friend of Margaret Thatcher. He goes to Chequers for Christmas. He's a friend of Prince Charles and Princess Diana.
Police in both the UK and the US are now investigating allegations against Weinstein, but many have questioned why criminal charges have never been brought before.
I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink. Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
This is the movie mogul and a young actress recorded as part of a police sting 2 years ago.
I'm sorry, I cannot. No, yesterday was kind of aggressive for me. I need to know a person to be touched.
I won't do a thing.
I don't want
do a thing, please. I swear I won't. Just sit with me. Don't embarrass me in the hotel. I'm here all the time.
I
sit
know,
with me,
but
I
don't
promise.
want to.
Please sit there. Please. 1 minute.
No,
I ask
can't.
you. Go to the bathroom.
Please, I don't want to do something I don't want
Go to the bathroom. Come here. Listen to me.
I want to go downstairs.
I'm not going to do anything. You'll never see me again after this. Okay? That's it. If you embarrass me in this hotel,
I'm not embarrassing you.
Abra Betalana Guterres had gone to the police to say he'd groped her. The New York Police Department persuaded her to go back and make this recording.
On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket,
yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
I will never do another thing to you. 5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
As disturbing as it is, it wasn't enough to prove a crime.
Obviously, he has some serious issues, and the tape is terrible. But I, as DA, have to be guided by the evidence and the elements of the crime and my experts in the office. And if I stop being guided by any of those things and start being guided by outside influences, whether it's money or whether it's public opinion, then I'm not doing my job.
There's no sign of the Weinstein name anymore at the Los Angeles branch of the empire he built. His lawyers acknowledge financial payments were made to settle claims made against him, but with no admission of liability. But according to the US news website TMZ, there was a clause in Weinstein's contract saying if he was sued over misconduct, it was okay by them as long as he footed the bill.
A complaint is possibly made, and in walks a lawyer with a bag of cash or a checkbook and buys that person's silence.
Unless there's absolute proof, in this case the New York Times going on the record with people like Ashley Judd, I don't think that people can necessarily make a case, especially when someone has a high-powered team of lawyers that are going to threaten you with very ugly lawsuits and all kinds of legal dramas. People are reluctant to put their neck on the line when you're dealing with someone who has so much more power and influence and money than you do.
His wife has left him. He's been fired by his own company. BAFTA revoked his membership. The Academy branded him repugnant, with Downing Street suggesting he could be stripped of his honorary CBE.
There's long been a power nexus between the entertainment industry, Hollywood, and politics. And, of course, Harvey Weinstein was a major donor to the Democratic Party and supported the campaigns of the Obamas and before that.
He has a huge amount of power. Don't underestimate just where, his black book or who he could pick up the phone to. He could pick up the phone to the President of the United States.
President Trump was quick to respond to the harassment allegations breaking.
I've known Harvey Weinstein for a long time. I'm not at all surprised to see it.
Hillary Clinton has vowed to give the donations Weinstein made to her Democratic campaign to charity. And Barack Obama said in a statement that any man who degrades women in such a fashion needs to be condemned regardless of wealth or status.
A man who had the power to make or break the career of a number of very talented actors. A man who used that power in a disgusting and immoral way. It's long past time for the powerful men in Hollywood to speak up, to be strong enough to say something, because silence is complicity. Silence is consent.
As everything Weinstein once held dear has come crashing down around him, it's exposed a much wider problem that many women working in Hollywood say is endemic. The hope is this will mark a turning point.
Everybody knew about it. Even me as a young actress being in LA, everybody knew about it. I heard so many horrible stories. And now I started as a child actor, and truly I was exposed so many times to men like him.
Unless also we draw meaningful lessons from it and look at where this sort of endemic degradation and violence is coming from, and this entitlement and this privilege, then no, there won't be long-term change. But we can all do that.
Here is a man who has been pulled down. It's probably one of the greatest producing movie icons who is now absolutely grovelling for sanity in the gutter.
But never say never, Hollywood is famed for its comebacks. Roman Polanski's rape conviction hasn't stopped him making movies. And Mel Gibson was once cast out of Hollywood for his anti-Semitic rants and domestic abuse charges, but just this year he was Oscar nominated. And it seems the fallout from this isn't just limited to Weinstein's reputation. The very next day after going on Twitter to slam Weinstein over the allegations, Ben Affleck made an apology of his own for groping an MTV presenter years ago.
It seems much of the industry turned a blind eye to Harvey Weinstein's behaviour. Even his own response has been criticised for failing to recognise the true magnitude of the allegations against him. He's claimed the rules were different in the 60s and 70s, and with rehab, he hopes he can get better.
That's angered some who say he shouldn't be seeking people's pity, claiming he has a sex addiction. He should be charged for being a sexual predator.
I do not think that Harvey Weinstein understands or comprehends how much pain and suffering this brings to me and scores of other women. The window to end this soul-crushing behavior of sexually harassing women is only now just recently opened.
Everybody's feeding like a flock of vultures on the Harvey Weinstein corpse as it sort of, disintegrates, and they're looking for other people now. That's the thing. Who else has this sort of unacceptable behaviour, this, is clearly abusing their stature and their power? Who else will be having a restless night's sleep tonight?
Whether or not there are more skeletons to be discovered, at the very least, the Weinstein scandal has thrown a spotlight onto Hollywood's dark side. Could it be the momentum needed to root out the toxic behaviour that's been happening behind the scenes for good?